Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're tackling something literally everyone listening to this has dealt with: digital fatigue. You know that feeling of your brain just turning to mush? We're diving deep into the psychological and existential mechanisms behind it, and more importantly, how we can actually reclaim our minds. We're going to bridge the gap between the calculated science of modern user interfaces and some pretty deep philosophical ideas about human existence. It's all about understanding what these apps are doing to us and how we can consciously push back. Let's get into it.
So, why can't you stop scrolling? We've all absolutely been there. You open an app to check one single message, right? And suddenly, bam, an hour has completely vanished, and for some reason, you now know way too much about competitive dog grooming. It happens to the best of us. Now, you might beat yourself up and think it's just a lack of willpower, but based on the UX design experts we're analyzing today, it's really not. It's actually completely by design.
Here's the clinical reality of the situation. Behind every single ding, buzz, and notification, there's a highly calculated effort to hijack your brain's feel-good neurotransmitter, dopamine. You see, digital designers aren't just building pretty interfaces anymore. They're essentially designing interactions that give your brain a tiny little chemical reward. The goal is incredibly simple: make sure that every single tap and swipe makes you desperately crave the next one. So how exactly does this play out in practice? Well, it's a three-step dance. First up, we've got the reward loop. That's the positive reinforcement that encourages you to keep doing whatever you're doing. Second is anticipation. And honestly, the thrill of anticipating the reward is almost always more compelling than the reward itself. And then we get to the third part, the secret sauce: variable rewards. By making the outcome entirely unpredictable, kind of like the thrill of finally finding a rare Pokemon in Pokemon Go, the whole interaction becomes literally irresistible to the human brain. To create that irresistible pull, designers use some very specific, highly calculated techniques. Take the infinite scroll, for example. It drops you right into this flow state where you just completely lose track of time. Then there are those perfectly timed notifications that give you a quick hit of social validation. Oh, and gamification. Things like progress bars or trying desperately not to break a daily app streak that taps right into our deep-seated fear of losing what we've built. Throw in some social proof to trigger our FOMO, fear of missing out, and you can see how this heavily blurs the line between smart user engagement and, well, outright psychological manipulation. Now, here is where things get super fascinating. You might think this whole feeling of intellectual decline is a brand new, modern problem. No way. Henry David Thoreau actually diagnosed this over 150 years ago. Seriously, back in 1854, while he was writing about an agricultural potato rot, he literally coined the term brain rot to describe a widespread decline in intellectual ability that society was basically just ignoring. Fast forward to today, and brain rot isn't just an old observation. It is officially recognized as the cognitive crisis of our algorithmic age. In fact, it was just crowned by the extremely prestigious Oxford University Press as their 2024 Word of the Year. It's kind of wild, right? But it perfectly captures the modern deterioration of our cognitive capacities, all thanks to endlessly consuming shallow, algorithmic digital content. We are quite literally living out the Rose warning right now. Part 1, We Are Sisyphus, the meaningless loop. Let's see how this builds into a profound existential metaphor for our daily digital habits, moving beyond psychology and straight into philosophy. Think about the Greek myth of Sisyphus pushing that giant boulder up a hill forever. As our source material points out, Sisyphus wasn't just punished with hard work. The real torture was that he was punished with entirely meaningless work. Sound familiar? The modern user is trapped in that exact same endless loop. Every single time we reach the bottom of an infinite feed, the boulder rolls right back down the hill. We refresh, we start swiping all over again, and we achieve absolutely nothing. But here's the crucial pivot. The philosopher Albert Camus argued that Sisyphus actually defeats this whole illusion, not by quitting, but through sheer, lucid awareness of how absurd it all is. The gods literally lose their power over him the exact moment Sisyphus realizes the task is endless. He doesn't cling to some false fantasy of magically escaping. Instead, he embraces the reality of his situation with his eyes wide open. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate rebellion for us today. It means staring down your endless feed, refusing to lie to yourself about it, and consciously choosing your posture toward all that meaningless content. You see, you don't defeat the algorithm by blindly hoping it's suddenly going to fulfill you. You defeat it by recognizing exactly what it is, squaring your shoulders, and deciding for yourself how you're going to engage with the digital stone sitting right in front of you. Part 2, Pandora's Box, the Nature of Hope. The digital age definitely opened up a box of brain rot,
But right at the bottom is a philosophical tool we can use to fight back: hope.
Now, to use hope correctly, we have to understand that it's actually a pretty contested idea. In fact, some of history's most brilliant philosophers viewed hope as a trap. Thinkers like Spinoza and Schopenhauer, they saw it as a false belief that just sets you up for disappointment. Nietzsche even called it a rainbow above a rushing stream that merely prolongs our suffering, and Camus saw it as a massive distraction from the present reality. To all these guys, hope was just this passive illusion that ultimately keeps us trapped.
But our sources point out a really critical distinction we have to make if we want to escape brain rot. We absolutely must contrast passive optimism, just blindly waiting around for good things to happen while ignoring the negative, with true philosophical hope. True hope is an active cognitive mindset. Active hope looks right at the darkness and the difficulty, acknowledges it, and then actually uses it as fuel. The architects of this idea, folks like Kant and Kierkegaard, framed hope as a liberating force tied directly to ethical action. Some contemporary thinkers describe it with this really beautiful phrase, an inner preparation for the unborn. Basically, it's a pregnant, highly active state of mind that inspires us to actually do something, to act, to create something entirely new, and to finally reclaim our minds from that digital despair.
Part 3. Designing for Delight, Escaping Brain Rot. Let's see how we can actually apply this active hope to build responsible digital environments and radically rethink our relationship with technology. So for designers and users alike, we really have to draw a hard line between true engagement and outright exploitation. Responsible design means using nudges for genuinely important actions, not just bombarding you with trivial updates. It's about providing actual, meaningful value, rather than relying on shady dark patterns to manipulate you into doing things you don't even want to do. Ultimately, it's about designing for conscious mastery and completely rejecting that overstimulation of endless loops. This brings us to a fascinating shift that experts are calling gamification 2.0. Listen, real engagement does not come from just slapping some flashy points or aesthetic badges onto an app. That doesn't cut it anymore. It requires building a true motivational architecture that's actually worth repeating. We're talking about offering users authentic mastery, giving them meaningful choices, and fostering real social interdependence. The bottom line? The digital experience has to actually respect the user's intelligence. The good news is we are actually seeing this active hope manifesting in the industry right now. There are some great examples of tech using design to prioritize your well-being over sheer dependency. Headspace is a great one. It balances engagement with mindfulness using really gentle nudges. Then you've got Apple's Screen Time, which actively promotes healthier habits just by making you hyper-aware of your usage. Even YouTube offers bedtime reminders now, which empowers users to snap out of the infinite scroll and, actually get some sleep. But hey, we can't just sit around waiting for tech companies to save us, right? Armed with that active hope we talked about, here is what you can do today to break the algorithmic spell. We need to improve our digital literacy and set some hard limits on our screen time. We've got to step away, engage our physical bodies, and strengthen our real-world social relationships. Doing these things actively restores our intellectual abilities. That right there, that is hope in action. As we navigate this crazy digital world, there's a golden rule we need to constantly ask ourselves to make sure we aren't being exploited. You ready? Here it is. Does this feature add value for the user or just for the business? Whether you're a developer building an app or just someone downloading one, taking a second to evaluate that true value exchange is absolutely the first step in protecting your cognitive agency. I want to leave you with a provocative thought straight from our philosophical analysis today. You are fully aware of the boulder now. You know all about the dopamine loops, the brain rot, and the trap of the endless scroll. The hill remains, and so do we. So the big question is, how will you choose to push it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope this gives you the tools to actively change how you interact with your screen from here on out. Catch you next time.